G'day, and welcome to another episode of Aussie Box Office Charts. I am Alan Gamble, and oh boy, do we have some charts to get into this week. Not wasting any time, let's dive straight in to the top 5 for this weekend, starting with the massive opening of a Minecraft movie that I believe blew everyone's expectations out of the water. The biggest opening of 2025 so far, and not by a small margin. The biggest video game adaptation of all time, opening weekend in Australia, going back to 2001, which we'll be digging into shortly to show just how strong a Minecraft movie opened. Opening in top spot with $13.6 million, taking an easy number 1. At number 2, we have Dogman with $993,000, opening respectively, but obviously miles off the pace of a Minecraft movie. A Working Man drops down to number 3 with another $746,000. Second week, dropping 56% for a current total of $2.9 million. Snow White continues to plummet down the charts with another $637,000. In its third week of release, dropping 64% for a current total of $6.1 million. Novocaine rounds out the top 5 with another $525,000, a movie that I caught and I really enjoyed. So if you're into the vibe of that movie, it's a good time. But we're not here to talk about the Novocaine just yet. Let's take a look at Minecraft. And before we dive into video game movies, let's take a quick look at a chart we don't update all the time, and our headline, the top 5 openings of 2025. As we can see, a Minecraft movie easily jumps to top spot with $13.6 million, which bumps Captain America's Brave New World down to second with its $5.3 million. Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boy drops down to third with $4.4 million. Paddington in Peru, that opened to $2.9 million back in January, drops down to number 4, and Disney's Snow White drops down to 5th spot with $2.8 million just a couple of weeks ago. Nizar 2 drops out of this chart, so that is our current top 5 openings for 2025. Let's dig deeper into the video game side of Minecraft's success. A Minecraft movie opens to $13.6 million in the Australian market opening weekend, beating out all previous highest video game movies of all time, including Super Mario Bros. From 2023, which previously held this record. If we look at this chart, you can see just how far ahead a Minecraft movie opened compared to every other video game adaptation movie in the last 25 years. I did try to go back earlier, but data from box office reporting in Australia in the 90s and earlier gets really, really spotty. But I can't imagine Super Mario Bros. From 1993 or the early fighting game movies like Double Dragon from 1994 and Street Fighter from 1994 and Mortal Kombat from 1995 would have put up these numbers even adjusted for inflation. But if we go down the chart, we can see the lowest opening weekend was Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City from 2021. That movie was incredibly dull, and I'm not surprised it's down that far. Borderlands in 2024, just last year, opened to $500,000, and that should be a blessing that it got that much money because that movie was also atrocious. Back in 2006, DOA Dead or Alive opened to $530,000, which I love that movie. It is terrible, but I love it. Monster Hunter in 2020 opened to $877,000. Silent Hill opened to just over $1 million, as did Hitman Agent 47 from 2015. Then we had a few middling movies like Resident Evil Apocalypse, Hitman from 2007, Need for Speed from 2014, and Doom from 2005, all opening to around that mid $1 million to just under $2 million. Then we start to get to some that were a little bit successful, like Tomb Raider from 2018, that was the reboot, opening to $2.7 million. Rampage from 2018, that opened to just over $3 million. Warcraft, a massive movie, but only opened to $3.4 million in 2016 in Australia. Prince of Persia Sands of Time from 2010 opens to $3.4 million. And Mortal Kombat from 2021 opens to 3.6. Sonic the Hedgehog from 2020 starts to bump up that number to $3.8 million. And then we have some that were generally considered good, successful movies for their IPs. Pokemon Detective Pikachu from 2019 opened to $5 million. Lara Croft Tomb Raider from 2001, the Angelina Jolie movie, opened to $5.1 million. Uncharted from 2022 opened to $5.6 million in the Australian market. Five Nights at Freddy's from 2023 opened to $6.1 million. Probably a lot of that same Minecraft audience, to be honest. Assassin's Creed from 2016 opened to $6.2 million. And you can see that's it. That's the plateau. And then in 2023, we had Super Mario Bros. That jumped all the way to $10.5 million. And now we have a Minecraft movie dropping $13.6 million on its opening weekend. Now, even if we adjust these numbers for inflation, which we will do, nothing is close to Minecraft still. There's a few shifts around, like obviously Lara Croft Tomb Raider from 2001 goes miles up the chart because it's a lot of inflation from 2001. And Prince of Persia Sands of Time also gets a bit of a boost from 2010. But mostly the rest stay in the same spot or shimmy around just a little bit. Nothing can get close to Minecraft. This is an incredible opening. I'm probably not going to see it because I'm not the target audience. I never played Minecraft that much. But I'm glad that everyone is going out to see it because cinemas need that money right now. They have not had a good start to 2025. So if they have a smash hit where everyone's going to go see it, I'm all for it. And with Captain America out of the top 10, let's take a quick update on the MCU for it. Out of the top 10 and in just over 100 screens now, bringing in under $60,000 this week. So checking out on the MCU, and it looks like in Australia, Captain America Brave New World, currently at $13.8 million, is not going to beat out Eternals at $14.9 million. It doesn't have the legs to get there at this stage, meaning it will end its run as the fifth lowest grossing MCU movie within the Australian market, beating only The Incredible Hulk, The Marvels, and Captain America, The First Avenger, and Black Widow. So if we look at the MCU total gross, so this is the amount of money each movie made during its domestic run in Australia, you can kind of see the blue phase, the phase we're currently on, is not looking too good. We have the massive success of Deadpool and Wolverine from last year, but then you have the Marvels, Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 did okay, but that's one okay movie and one hit compared to the previous phase that had Spider-Man No Way Home, Multiverse of Madness, Thor Love and Thunder. A lot more of those pretty successful, but not smashingly successful movies. But it's a nice little chart broken phase by phase so you can see how we go. And while we're on disappointing Disney movies, let's move to Snow White. It's more bad news for Disney. If we look at Snow White, with its weekend 3 gross, it has still not passed Pete's Dragon from 2016. That's not impressive. It still requires another $2 million to get to the minimum level I mentioned during its opening week, where I said it'll probably get around the Cruella or else through the Looking Glass level. Well, that apparently was too optimistic for this movie, as it's been an utter disaster. 3 weeks and it hasn't even passed Pete's Dragon. Not a good turnout. I was wrong. I gave it the silver lining that if Minecraft was a flop and bombed, then Snow White might be able to sneak in some seats and some tickets during the school holidays that we're currently in Australia. Minecraft, unfortunately, was not a bomb. It was a smashing success, which is the worst case scenario for Snow White, that movie is absolutely dead on arrival in the Australian market, and that is reflective in the international markets and the US domestic, but we focus on the Aussie market here. But yeah, not good news for Disney either way. Let's quickly finish off the top 10 with 6 through 10. At number 6, we have Black Bag with another $219,000 after 4 weeks of release, dropping 56% for a current total of just over $3 million. Mikey 17 drops to 7th after 5 weeks of release, dropping another 60% with another $200,000 for a current total of $5.7 million. Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boy continues to hang around with another $120,000, dropping 69% in its 8th week of release for a current total of $16.3 million. Sikander holds 9th spot again for its 2nd week in a row, dropping 43% for a current total of $473,000. And Flow hangs around in the top 10 for a 3rd week in a row, dropping 43% for a current total of $790,000. Good on you, Flow. Quickly checking what's dropped out of the top 10 this week. Captain America Brave New World is out after 7 weeks of release, after 7 weeks in the top 10. The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie, is out after just a week, and L2 Impuron is out after just a week, dropping 97% in its 2nd week. Massive drop, but we do see that type of thing happen with international movies sometimes. Now the big one, the 2025 top 10 in the Australian box office. Everything released in 2025, how is it ranked? Well, Paddington in Peru still holds top spot at $17.7 million, and Bridget Jones' Mad About the Boy is number 2 with $16.3 million. Captain America Brave New World holds 3rd spot for now at $13.8 million. A Minecraft movie enters the chart at number 4, leapfrogging everything before that with $13.6 million. I expect this to be at least 2nd by next week, possibly top spot. And obviously that new entry bumps A Complete Unknown down to 5th spot with $8.4 million. Conclave down to 6th with $8.3 million. Nosferatu with number 7 with just over $8 million. Nizar 2 at $7.4 million. We Live in Time down to 9th spot at $6.7 million. That is its final gross. It has stopped reporting numbers, so that is a locked number. And Snow White doesn't get bumped down because it leapfrogged over Mikey 17 to take 10th spot, while Mikey 17 gets knocked out of the top 10 for 2025. And it's time to take a quick look at what's coming up this week. April 10th, in wide release. First up, we have Death of a Unicorn, the latest A24 horror comedy from writer-director Alex Schaffman and starring Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega. I would assume this one is about a death of a unicorn. Next, we have The Amateur, an action spy thriller from Jason Hans, starring Rami Malek, Michael Stuhlbarg, and Lawrence Fishburne, where an introverted spy is forced to take action after his superiors refuse. We have a long-awaited Australian release for the Western remake of the Thai movie of the same name, directed by J.C. Lee and starring Kalina Liang and Benedict Wong, about a gifted student who is struggling financially, sees an opportunity to help her rich classmates cheat in their exams. And lastly, The Chosen, Last Supper Part 1 from Dallas Jenkins, another retelling of a Jesus thing that not really my area, but if this is your jam, you will already know about this one. April 10th in limited release, so these ones will be airing in your local area, but you may have to hunt around for them in smaller cinema chains. First, we have Good, Bad, Ugly, a Tamil language action thriller out of India, starring AK. We have King of Kings, an animated tale of Jesus, with a solid voice cast of Oscar Isaacs, Kenneth Branagh, and Uma Thurman, based on the novel by Charles Dickens. And lastly, we have Small Things Like These, the latest from director Tim Millans, starring Cillian Murphy and Emily Watson, about a 1985 coal merchant struggling to support his family and is forced to question his own truths. It looks like it's going to be a heavy-hitting drama, probably fishing for that early awards season buzz. Across in streaming, we have 2 big new streaming releases. April 10th, we have a Netflix animated series, Moonrise, a Japanese animated sci-fi animated series in a future conflict between Earth and the Moon. Looks quite good. I might check that out. And we have an Apple TV Plus series, Your Friends and Neighbours, from director Jonathan Tropper and starring John Hamm, Amanda Peet, and Olivia Munn, about a financial titan who finds himself divorced and jobless, and he starts robbing his neighbours to stay afloat. Could be interesting. Apple TV, I think this might end up quite good. In returning series, April 10th sees the return of Black Mirror with Season 7 on Netflix on April 10th. On April 12th, on Disney Plus, we get the return of Doctor Who Season 2. And the most anticipated one for this week, most likely, The Last of Us Part 2, Season 2, returning April 13th on HBO Max, which is now in Australia. So if you're interested in that, check that out. I think that one will be the most anticipated series for most people. Time to recap what I watched this week for this week's Cinechums Movie Challenge with the theme of fire and other heat-related terms. I ended up with 7 movies this week, so let's get into my thoughts on what I watched. First up was Runaways from 2010, directed by Floria Sigmondi, starring Kristen Stewart and Dakota Fanning. For challenge eligibility, the Runaways hit song was Cherry Bomb. A pretty solid and interesting look into the rise and fall of the Runaways, with Joan Jett and Cherie Currie in the mid-70s. Quite literally a tale of sex, drugs and rock and roll, with Cherie Currie being 16 or 15 and 16 at the time. So it was quite interesting, and since I didn't know much about that band, it was quite an interesting tale. Next up was from just last year, 2024, The Fire Inside, directed by Rachel Morrison, written by Barry Jenkins and starring Ryan Destiny and Brian Tyree Henry. For challenge eligibility, we have Fire in the title. Another movie based on a real person, this time the true story of Clarissa Shields and her rise from a teenager in Flint, Michigan to becoming the first woman to win the Olympic gold medal in women's boxing for America. This one adds an extra layer on the traditional sports story by adding a social economic side that sometimes doing something amazing doesn't always lead to a massive payday when things like race and gender come into it. Moving on to Brain on Fire from 2017, directed by Gerald Barrett and based on the autobiography by Susanna Callahan, starring Chloe Grace Moritz and Carrie-Anne Moss. And for challenge eligibility, we have Fire in the title. This one was interesting as it had a terrible Rotten Tomato critic score of 13%, but a decent 67% audience. I always find those movies interesting to see where I will land, and I liked it. It was solid. While not amazing, telling the true story of Susanna Callahan and her issues and deterioration and misdiagnosis, I thought it dragged a little bit at the start, but it did pick up towards the end. Really interesting. Next up was my 4th movie based on a true story by coincidence this week, with Windscale, Britain's biggest nuclear disaster from 2007, a documentary on the Windscale nuclear disaster. And for challenge eligibility, it was about the new Windscale nuclear fire, and there we go. It was really interesting, as I didn't know a lot about the Windscale disaster at all. I knew the term, and I knew the location, and that was about it. But learning the social and political pressures of the time and how it led to bad decisions, the amount of times I uttered, "Oh, that's not a smart choice," during this movie and the lead up to the disaster was numerous. But it's also painfully familiar with a lot of things going down nowadays, where you just see crunch, 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 and there's going to reach a breaking point. Home stretch. Next, it was 1990's Joe versus the Volcano from director John Patrick Shanley, starring Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan. And for challenge eligibility, it was about Joe versus a volcano. Pretty obvious. This one was alright, funny and stylish at times, with Meg Ryan playing 3 different characters, telling the story of a man who's terminal makes a deal to live up his last few weeks with an unlimited amount of money in exchange to throw himself into a volcano for some mineral rights for a rich guy. And very much a tale of learning to live with your mortality and live life in a way that, what if you were going to die in 6 months? Not a bad joint. Next was one that has been on my watch list for a very long time, Denis Villeneuve's 2010 movie, Incendiaries, starring Lubna Azubal, Melissa Desumonax-Polan, and Maxim Godet. For challenge eligibility, we have the title. This one was intense, telling the dual tale of a mother's journey and her children recreating that journey as part of her final wishes. It was brutal and impactful, and it went places I was not expecting, but damn, what a movie. Not an easy watch, but one that I still do recommend to people that can put themselves in that mindset. Finally, after the last one, I needed something lighter or more positive, so I landed on Summerland from 2020, directed by Jessica Swale, starring Gemma Arterton, Gugu Mbatha-Raw, and Lucas Bond. For challenge eligibility, summer is a season of heat, and in Australia, often bushfires. Telling the story of a single woman who hates children is forced to take one in during World War II, and the growth that can come with that. It told a really lovely story, a lot of personal growth, a little tiny bit of romance, but that wasn't the focus point, and all the drama around learning to live and share your life with someone when you're not overtly comfortable with it. A lot of heart, almost brought a tear to my eye, was very sad and happy at the same time. Great little movie from 2020. Taking a look at what's upcoming this weekly challenge for the Cinechums Movie Challenge for inanimate objects, where the object is in the name of the movie, like the Red Balloon or the Lego Movie or the Man with the Golden Gun, or a key item such as The Secret Life of Walter Mitty about a missing negative. We have things like Green Book or Matchstick Men. We have Pulp Fiction with The Briefcase, Silver Linings Playbook. So we've got a few examples there, but let's take a look at my shortlist. I have a few things like The Man in the Hat, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes about a TV. We have The Life List or Brick, Letters to Iwo and Flags of Our Fathers, both objects, and Monolith. So we've got a few examples there. We'll see how we go. That is it for me this week. Join me again next week where I will be probably checking out The Amateur over the weekend. May even get a review for it, depends on what I think of it. But apart from that, my lighting gear has arrived and I will be attempting to set that up over the weekend to see how we go. I have a few other things to get sorted this weekend, so might be light on the challenge movies, but I do want to try and catch The Amateur. But anyway, I think it will be week 2 of Minecraft. I think it's going to dominate the box office yet again due to being in peak school holidays. So maybe we're going to have a new #1 movie of the year by next week. Let's see. But anyway, that's it for me, and I will see you again next week. Bye.